All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at how to take all your raw project initiation artifacts and transform them into a fully actionable PM Bouquet-aligned project plan using PM Molly. Honestly, think of this less like an administrative chore and more like an assembly line. It's a systematic, step-by-step engine designed to guarantee a rock-solid foundation for your project's success. We're going to build this out chronologically. We'll start with scope and WBS, then move into resource and schedule management, lock in budget and cost baselines, handle risk management, and wrap it all up with the integrated project plan summary. Starting off with Section 1, Scope and Work Breakdown Structure, or defining your boundaries. So, the very first step on our assembly line is figuring out exactly what it is we're building. The scope baseline is essentially a combination of your scope statement, your work breakdown structure, and the WBS dictionary. And the big takeaway here? Without having this defined right up front, you have absolutely no objective basis to approve or reject change requests. And you know what that means? Hello, scope creep. Now, looking at PM Molly, you literally just click Regenerate Deliverables. Boom! The AI instantly analyzes your project charter and structures all your requirements into a really rigorous 7-section specification framework. It engineers these contract-grade deliverables and measurable acceptance criteria, so you've got complete traceability from day one. But here is a critical area you really need to review and edit, the boundaries section. Pro tip here, exclusions are just as important as inclusions. If you rely on vague assumptions about what's obviously included for a client, I guarantee it's going to cause conflict later. PM Molly actually forces you to document these constraints explicitly, which is an absolute lifesaver for protecting your team. Okay, once your scope is approved, the system enforces the 100% rule and a strict PMI hierarchy. It automatically takes your deliverables and breaks them down from the top-level project right down to estimable Level 3 work packages. These are usually sized at about 5 to 20 working days, and it simultaneously generates the WBS dictionary to go right along with it. You've got to run validation steps immediately after that decomposition. Make sure to run the WBS integrity audit. This ensures every single Level 3 package uses very clear action plus object naming. So think draft design instead of just design. That level of precision is absolutely mandatory before we can even think about scheduling. Moving on to Section 2, Resource and Schedule Management. This is where we assign and sequence everything. Now our assembly line starts loading up that WBS with resources. PM Molly's AI scans your WBS and assigns the labor, materials, vendors, and equipment. You use the RACI matrix to just click and cycle through who is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. This maps accountability directly to every single Level 3 work package. No guessing who's doing what. And when it comes to estimation, this is really cool. The AI generates 3-point estimates. So it gives you optimistic, most likely, and pessimistic hours for all your resources. It actually calibrates the hours and hourly rates based on your specific industry and geographic location. Of course, you can manually tweak the quantities and rates to match your exact vendor contracts if you need to. But wait, before you go generating that schedule, you have to validate these assignments. Jump into the built-in resource histogram to make sure you aren't over-allocating your people. Planning as if you have infinite resource availability is a huge trap, and honestly, it's one of the main causes of team burnout and project failure down the line. All right, click Generate Schedule, and PM Molly instantly sequences those packages right onto a Gantt chart. It maps out all those complex dependencies, finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, start to finish. It even factors in lag times. Plus, it calculates your critical path and highlights it in bright red. And remember, any delay on that red line directly threatens your final delivery date. You can also toggle over to the calendar view if you want a day-by-day breakdown for daily tracking. But keep in mind, PM Molly is super strict about WBS schedule fidelity. That structure is immutable here. You can edit the durations and the timing attributes, but you absolutely cannot change the core WBS elements from this view. As the human in the loop, your job here is to use float analysis to find where you have schedule flexibility on those non-critical tasks. Double-check that the AI-generated dependency types actually match how your real-world workflow operates. Once you feel confident about it, that's when you lock in your schedule baseline. Up next is Section 3, Budget and Cost Baselines. Time to secure those financials. So with this schedule totally set, PM Molly brings together your confirmed resource costs, materials, and services. It then smartly layers in a calculated contingency reserve to establish your BAC, or budget at completion. This takes your planned value and plots it onto a time-phased executive S-curve, which, trust me, is going to be incredibly vital when you get into earned value management later on. Let's talk about red flags, though. A massive budgeting mistake is treating your project budget like one giant lump sum, instead of a WBS-aligned cost structure broken out by category. Please don't forget your contingency reserves or those indirect costs like administrative overhead. And frankly, if you don't baseline this exact setup, trying to track cost variances later is basically meaningless. Moving to Section 4, Risk Management. This is your proactive defense. Look, a premium project plan isn't just a fantasy about what will go right. It has to mathematically account for what could go wrong. PM Molly's AI actively scans your project's context, your industry, and your constraints to proactively fill out the risk register. It spots both threats and opportunities, scoring them right on a 5x5 probability and impact matrix. When you click into a specific risk, you get these deep AI insights. It computes the expected monetary value and even suggests response strategies for you. But you've got to go in, edit, assign owners, define the symptoms, and lock down your strategy. Are you going to avoid, mitigate, transfer, or accept it? Just make sure whatever mitigation costs you plan align perfectly with that budget contingency reserve we talked about earlier. And remember, setting this up isn't just a one-and-done activity. Continuous reassessment is totally critical. You need to link your mitigation actions directly to your schedule and define really clear triggers. Why? Because the moment a risk actually materializes during execution, it's no longer a risk. It's a live issue. Finally, Section 5, the Integrated Project Plan Summary, the ultimate executive asset. Also, quick note, while we were busy mapping out risks, PM Molly was actually working in the background, building out your communications plan too, getting stakeholders aligned, identifying audiences, and locking in the formats, channels, and frequencies for sharing information. So here is the big payoff at the end of the assembly line. PM Molly pulls live sync data from scope, schedule, budget, risk, and that communications module we just mentioned to generate the baseline snapshot. You can jump in and edit the narratives before saving it, creating this beautiful 9-section PDF-ready artifact. It covers everything from your executive summary to cost distribution and governance. This is what you use to lock in plan data for your control gates and get that formal stakeholder approval. This entire process really highlights a foundational truth from the PMBOK methodology. Without baselines, there is no objective basis for approving or rejecting change. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Take a look at your current projects. Are they just running on loose estimates and vibes, or are they truly baselined and executive ready? Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.